From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
So let's talk a little politics. We got two of the best, Joe Concha, Fox News contributor. And Joe's got a new book out, pre-order. You can pre-order The Greatest Comeback Ever, Inside Trump's Big, Beautiful Campaign, Unburdened by What Has Been. What a title. And Hall of Famer Mark Simone, radio host, 710 WOR, weekdays from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. So, fellas, I managed to get through the first half hour with, I think I mentioned the word drone once. That was all, just once. But now we have to go and do the drone story. Okay, the drones. And I'm going to lead off the drone story. Here's what Trump says on Truth Social. He says, mystery drone sightings all over the country. Can this really be happening without our government knowledge? I don't think so. Let the public know. And now, otherwise, shoot him down. DJT, Donald J. Trump. Joe Concha, what do you think? What is going on here with this drone story?
Well, Larry, as you know, I'm a Jersey guy, and I was out last night. And go to my Twitter feed at Joe Concha TV, and you will see what I filmed. There are objects flying basically over my house that flash red and white and move in directions that I've never seen from any aircraft on this planet. And it's every night. This has been going on for weeks, and it's good to hear from the acting president, Donald J. Trump, because Joe Biden has yet to say one public thing about this. Kamala Harris is still the vice president last check. You'll find her poolside at Mar-a-Lago before, we hear from her again, apparently.
Yes.
So, and my governor, Phil Murphy, says there's no need to panic, nothing to worry about. And then when he's asked, well, what are they? Oh, we don't know. Oh, great. That's reassuring. So, yeah, shoot them down. So this way we can actually see what's inside these things, what parts they're made of, where they're possibly from. This is the Chinese balloon all over again that flew across the country from Montana all the way to South Carolina like Clark Griswold, going on vacation, like unfettered, just kept going, and then we shot it down when it was over the ocean. Here's the thing about these drones. Apparently they're coming from the Atlantic Ocean off the Jersey shore. Shoot them down before they come onto our shores. That should be our policy. If we don't know what you are, we will shoot you down. End of story.
Wow. Mark Simone, I had Brett Vilikovich on last night, who's an expert, ex-Army guy, probably knows more about than anybody else. He says we're vulnerable to drone attack. It's going to get worse. Drones don't just pose a physical threat. They can be used to gather extensive amounts of secure information. That goes to Joe Concha's point. It's Chinese spy balloons 2.0. And it is quite remarkable that the government and the Defense Department has nothing to say about this.
Well, we said this on the TV show a couple weeks ago, that in the final month, Biden would do the worst stuff he's ever done, the worst cover-ups, the worst lies, worst deployments. This is, they covered up his mental state. They covered up things in the pandemic. This cover-up is the most dangerous one of all. It's there's too many of these. It's obviously not an amateur hobbyist, anything like that. It's not some commercial corporate company. This is clearly, most likely, foreign military stuff. So it's either they're doing gathering data, or they're just doing this to see what our response would be, get a look at our military response or how we respond to this, which is the only explanation for why we're not doing anything. We just don't want to show them what our response is. But it's insane. They've got to do something, and you don't want to just shoot them down one by one. You got to go find the mothership and take out the source.
How can we not know that? How can we not know the source? That's an important point. How can we not know that?
There's a rumor of that Iranian huge drone ship off the Atlantic. But to leave America in the dark and scared about this is the worst thing Biden's done so far.
I'll read you some more of Brett Vilikovich. Again, this guy knows more about, and he's been in drone combat around the world. He says, we've lost the ability to protect our own airspace. We have a complacent and incompetent Biden administration in charge that has set our drone industry back years. President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration can't come soon enough. We need an overhaul of our drone defenses nationwide. Our national security infrastructure is not set up to defend against what's coming or even what's already here. I mean, wow. That is the market. That is just That's worse than worse.
It's horrible. It's just, it's insane. And the same thing with that balloon that came over America, 8 days of doing nothing about it. And as, people say, this kind of weakness is provocative. Whatever this is, our failure to respond is going to cause other countries to do this kind of stuff. It's horrifying.
Joe Concha, you think this is China, China's spy balloon 2.0?
It's Iran, it's China, but it absolutely is. And I think Mark makes the right point that they're testing to see what they can get away with at this point. And apparently it's everything. And I interviewed an expert on AI yesterday, and if you want to hear scary, AI now can be militarized to the point where you could program a drone to find somebody through facial recognition and then go to where that person's location is and follow them until the drone then blows up and obviously kills the person. And it's what is happening right now in Ukraine, where there are drones following Russian troops. And then once they recognize, say, a general, for example, they could blow up the drone, and therefore the general is, gone. So think about Donald Trump on a golf course for a moment. How do you protect him when he's playing golf if you could send a drone to kill him? Secret Service is there, but if something's flying in over them, what are they going to do to protect the president? So I think this is something that we're way behind on right now, and we have people that are very vulnerable, I have a feeling. And the fact that we're not sending a message right now to shoot these things down, and to Mark's point, like just take out the mothership where they're being launched from, it's a horrible precedent. And again, this president cannot leave soon enough. What are we, 33 days away? We got to live with this? Move the inauguration up to tomorrow. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that, including Biden.
Including Biden. Mark Simone, you got drones in Connecticut, I'm told. Susan Varga told me there are drones in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Well, there's not much to look at in Connecticut. In New Jersey, you got an Air Force base. You got the home of the next president. You got a lot of stuff there. You got major airports. They're everywhere. They're in Las Vegas. They're all over America now. How much does this threat have to grow before the president will at least admit what it is or say something?
What about airplanes flying and drones flying around them? I mean, who was it? Joe said they're moving in, rapid directional changes never seen before. I mean, at what point are we going to have an airline crash?
Yeah, and if
right.
we do,
go ahead, Mark.
from one or two drones, then we know there's another 1,000 of them up in the sky. What are we going to do about it? It'll be too late to do anything about it then.
Has Hegseth said anything about this? New incoming defense secretary. He's gonna get. He'll be confirmed. I mean, I don't know this guy John Kirby. The spokesperson for national security. I mean, he just gets up there and says, we don't know anything. Homeland Security says we don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. How can that be? This is America. We're supposed to be the strongest country in the world, the most advanced technological country in the world, the strongest military in the world, Mark. How can we not know?
Yeah, well, Kirby looks like, when there's a big fight at the airport at the gate, you can't get an answer, and they say, well, we'll bring out the manager. And the guy comes out, and you can see it's the most useless manager who's going to double-talk you. That's Kirby.
Yeah. What? This thing can't keep going on the way it's going on, fellas. I'm just telling you, I don't know. This has been going on for weeks. It's just kind of the biggest story out there right now. And Trump says shoot it down. When it was original China balloons, remember they drifted in from Alaska over Montana. A lot of Montana, they got the cattlemen in Montana, the Yellowstone cowboys wanted to shoot it down. But they wouldn't allow them. They said it's not a problem. Remember, it's not a problem. It's not gathering intelligence, no problem. And then they finally shot it down off the coast of South Carolina. But this thing, there's too many drones to just shoot one down.
Yeah, they're everywhere over the night sky. And look, I don't understand why New Jersey was the first place they came. To Mark's point, there's not much to see in Connecticut. I get it. Trump lives here, but not now, right? He's down in Mar-a-Lago until it gets warm here until like May or June. And obviously we have an Air Force base, but they've mainly been in the northern part of the state where I live. So I don't know if that's necessarily the target here. But I'll say this, and if the people that are running these drones are listening, or if you're aliens, well, aliens aren't going to come light years to take New Jersey. That I know. So that's out. But if you're here to take Springsteen and Bon Jovi, you can have them gladly. We don't want them anymore. So if it's for Springsteen and Bon Jovi, Larry, take them.
Well, that was, Mark, one of my original theories, which is as good as any other theory, is that, these were Christmas angels coming to redeem New Jersey from Governor Phil Murphy's socialism. That was one of my original thoughts. But now it looks a little more serious because angels aren't that big.
It looks very serious. These aren't angels. These are definitely not angels. It's very serious. It's very militaristic. They're flying in formations. And what's in northern New Jersey? Well, it could be the fact that it's 10 minutes from New York. I hate to say it. New York
What
City.
was the Orson Welles movie?
War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. That's what this is like. Orson Welles, War of the Worlds. And we're not except this is real.
In the movie with Tom Cruise, eventually these things come out of the ground and are these huge robots that, kill everybody. So, I don't know. Maybe I should move. How is Florida these days? I mean, that's a good state, right? No income tax. That might be the way to go. No drones over Florida.
I don't know. Taking out New Jersey might not be that bad. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey, so I understand. But New Jersey is not the New Jersey that I grew up in many decades ago. But I mean, this is just you're gonna have drone crashes. Didn't a drone crash in somebody's backyard? But it was a small drone. It wasn't a monster drone. Anyway, I got to get out. Enough of drones. It's unbelievable. We have other things to talk about. We got to talk about daylight savings time. I got to talk about the Biden people, the lowest of the low. Most pathetic story out there is to sabotage Donald Trump's border wall. They're selling steel at bottom dollar prices, equipment. It's really a pathetic thing. Anyway, folks, we'll take a quick break. Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, Mark Simone, Hall of Famer, radio host, 710 WOR, weekdays 10 a.m. to noon. I'm Kudlow. Be right back.
Larry Kudlow. From Wall Street to the White House, this is the Larry Kudlow Show.
We are talking politics with Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, and Joe's new book. You can get it for pre-order, The Greatest Comeback Ever, Inside Trump's Big Beautiful Campaign, Unburdened by What Has Been. Wow. Joe's first, earlier book, not first, Progressively Worse, Why Today's Democrats Ain't Your Daddy's Donkeys. And Mark Simone, Hall of Fame radio host at 710 WOR, playing weekdays, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Gentlemen, welcome back. Mark Simone, should we get rid of daylight savings time?
Absolutely. What's the point of having to get dark at 4:30 in the afternoon? It's typical Trump. If it's common sense, do it.
Who invented? Did you invent daylight? Who was the inventor of daylight savings time?
It was something to do with farmers years ago, something about the crops and having a daylight at the right time of day. But the farming industry is pretty tiny. We don't need to do it just for them.
Joe, get rid of it.
I think I saw a poll that 85% of Americans want to get rid of daylight savings time. For Mark's exact point, it gets dark because I have like some mountains, like not Mount Everest, but mountains kind of around where I live. So once that sun gets behind those mountains, it's like 3:45 and it's dark. You're like, all right, this is depressing. Like I just got the kids from school. They can't go outside at this point. I don't see any real reason behind keeping it, quite frankly. And I was just looking it up online here as far as when it was invented, and Mark is correct. Yeah, this was something to do with farmers and crops, but we're kind of past that point now. So, common sense says get rid of it. Trump and this Congress will.
Chuck Grassley might have started it. He's 90 years old. He might have been the guy.
Yeah.
Out in Iowa.
That makes sense.
Out in Iowa. Joni Ernst, but she's too young to have started it. Yeah, it is depressing. I think that's the worst part. It's psychologically depressing to see all that darkness. I mean, it's like dark for days and weeks and months in Alaska, but we don't have to have it here, especially with the drones in the skies. It's not good. Too much.
Yeah, and Larry, by the way, it would save a lot of money on electricity because people are turning their lights on sooner, right? So there's an economic angle to this as well.
Mark, while I got you here, are you bidding? I don't know where the auctions are. Are you bidding for any of the border wall steel and equipment that Joe Biden is tearing down? I mean, is this the most pathetic, lowest of the low jealous, dumb thing in the world. On his way out, he's trying to auction off the wall, which Trump wants to build and rebuild.
I have a policy of not buying anything from Joe Biden, so no, I'm not kidding. But this goes back to what we were saying. In his final 30 days, he'll do the worst stuff imaginable. Petty, cheap, awful, lying, terrible stuff. You know, he's a no-show. He doesn't even show up for work, but the only thing he shows up for is to do these terrible things.
I haven't actually seen him recently, publicly. Where is he?
No, there's nothing on the schedule. Harris, same thing. There's nothing on their schedule. Mainstream media keeping totally quiet about that.
Who's running the country?
Oh, Mark. Who's running the country, exactly. No, to answer your question, Larry, he did do a speech on Wednesday, I believe, in D.C., and the teleprompter goes out. And I'll send the link to your producer so you can play the soundbite if you like. But it's he says, "Oh, wait, the electricity went out." And they mumbled some things for a while. But it's funny because he was on a microphone that was powered by electricity. He meant to say teleprompter, I guess. But again, I mean, this is the worst administration of all time, right? I mean, I was barely alive for Carter. I've read a lot about it. But Carter at least seemed like he tried and cared about the country and just was kind of incompetent. But Biden, it seems like he's trying to destroy it, like whether we're talking about the border, whether we're talking about inflation, whether we're talking about these wars that he really, really wants to continue by all the billions he's sending over to Ukraine and to Iran for that matter. It's evil. I mean, I'm sorry I don't use that word very often, but every intention, not so much he seems to have, whoever's running him seems to have, is bad. And I wonder if it's like, is George Soros running the country? Because that's the only explanation I have.
Is Mark Simone, Biden's economic farewell speech was not received that well. Actually, it was virtually not covered. I don't know if he could get through it without the teleprompter. But Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, gave her speech, and she apologized for a $36 trillion debt. She said, "I wish we had done better." This is 4 years later. She's the one who said inflation is transitory. And then she finally admitted that it was around, then it was bad. In their second year, I remember she went on CNN and said that I called it the hostage speech. And she apologized for $36 trillion debt. So I don't know who's running the country. I have no idea. I mean, it's a very interesting question.
I think that's one reason. Trump's favorability is at an all-time high right now. And you see a lot of Democrats. There's a big chunk of Democrats who were Bill Clinton, common sense Democrats, who feel free now to leave that world and show some support for Donald Trump because they've never seen anything like this. A guy who actually works 18 hours a day, gets things done, and he's brought back what Reagan brought, that old-fashioned American moxie, that can-do spirit that's been missing for years. He crushed the Clinton machine. He crushed the Bush machine. He just crushed the Obama machine. They know he's a winner, and they want to be with him.
Yeah, Joe, he's captured the zeitgeist. There's a new zeitgeist in the country, a new spirit in the country. And Trump in some ways created it, but it's spread, and he's capturing it now, and he's channeling it, and he's doing a wonderful job. Everything he does. We talked weeks and weeks ago about him going to the Al Smith dinner and Kamala not going. But when he went to the Notre Dame Cathedral for the reopening of that, and then he shows up at the New York Stock Exchange as the Time Man of the Year, I mean, these are just all brilliant moves by Donald Trump. He is the zeitgeist right now.
He is the president right now. He just looks so presidential, whether it was in Paris, whether it's at the New York Stock Exchange, as you mentioned. And in my book, The Greatest Comeback Ever, I went to his rally in Wildwood. The Trump people flew me down on the plane. We had Wendy's, which, was awesome. And then I remember, taking notes throughout the rally. He's going to say something different here I haven't heard before. And he made this one point, and it was off prompter. And he said, you know what? This movement is more popular and powerful than ever before because people have seen the alternative. He said in 2016 and 2020, I had to tell you what the alternative would be like. You'd have to imagine it. Now they've lived it, and that's why this movement, he never gives himself so much credit, but he calls it the movement. The movement has never been more popular. And you see it. Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy Jr. have been Democrats or have voted Democrat their entire life, and now they're on his team. It's incredible, the coalition that he has built.
I was just thinking, though, I mean, I hate to think thoughts about Joe Biden anymore, but he's given the most amount of pardons and commutations in the history of pardons and commutations. Yeah. And Mark Simone, have you gotten a pardon or a commutation for anything? I mean, everybody. See, I didn't get one. I was kind of left out. Everyone's getting one. Drug dealers, murderers. It's the darndest thing I've ever seen.
Just wait. The worst pardons always happen in that final week. You do that at the very end. I think this is nothing compared to the pardons.
There's more coming.
Yeah. Whoever bought a Hunter painting, whoever donated money, there's a lot of pardons coming. They'd be uglier than these.
Yeah, and preempted pardons. That's the worst one. You haven't committed a crime, and just in case you do, we got your back.
I just find this whole thing. The best part of this is the Trump zeitgeist. That's the absolute best part. America's coming back under Donald Trump. Joe Concha, thank you very much. Mark Simone, we appreciate it, buddy.